This is the second video in the series about how to use our chemical forms. So this is our chemical policy on the website, and today we'll be discussing this requirement. Chemicals need to be processed for disposal. Purdue does not pollute the environment, so all our chemicals need to be properly processed for disposal. In order to do that, you will be using our chemical approval / disposal / labels form. To access the form, you can scan the QR code or you can click the QR code. So here's the form. As you can see, all of our different requests are routed through a central form. Today we'll be talking about hazardous waste disposal. So once we click on hazardous waste disposal, we will see that as per Purdue policy, all chemicals are to be treated as hazardous waste. Please file this request for disposal of chemicals. Now, there's a few details here that we need to fill out, but before we discuss that, we need to create a hypothetical scenario. So here's our scenario. Let me pull up notes. We had a few bolts that were covered in Loctite 242. We washed the bolts in a beaker with acetone. Now we have contaminated acetone in the beaker and need to dispose of it. So the first thing that you have to know is you cannot just provide the center an open beaker and call it good. So you need to transfer the contents of the beaker into a container that can be closed. Now, since we are dealing with acetone, you cannot just use any container. Some plastics will dissolve in acetone. So you have to use a container that is suitable. So what we use is a empty paint container, empty or new paint container, empty paint container that has the contaminated acetone. Now this container is closed, meaning it's not open and can be easily handled. So given that scenario, we can now start filing this. Composition of container. When filling out the chemical composition of container, follow these steps. Identify the chemical. Determine the chemicals in the container, referencing the row numbers from the inventory. So the chemical inventory is under right to know, and it's right here. You can either click it or scan this QR code. Now I'm here. So I'm going to look for acetone, find. So there's a couple of acetones. Now I need to know which specific acetone I used. So let's start our acetone again. Now in the facility, we use part 9 acetone from fiberglass. Now this is Baja's variant. So in this example, I'm going to pretend to be a member of Baja. So The acetone I used was number 57. So I have that information now, number 57. And the Loctite 242. So let's just search Loctite 242. Now, in this case, we're going to assume that we used IEEE's Loctite. Now, if it is the exact same product, it is fine to use another team's entry. But if it is slightly different products, you do need to use the proper entry. So in this case, I'm going to assume that we borrowed the Loctite from IEEE. So Loctite would be number 87. Now, in the event that I have something that isn't on the approval list, well, first of all, that's a bad situation because you're not supposed to have chemicals that are not in the approved list. However, let's just say that happened. So let's say chemical X, and I can't find chemical X in the inventory. The team made a mistake or someone made a mistake and it is here without approval. In that case, I will just type in the chemical name. The center will not be happy about this, but at the same time, we will still process the waste, ensuring that it doesn't end up being thrown into the trash or poured down the drain. So identifying the chemicals is done. Calculate percentages. Calculate the percentage of each chemical in the mixture. If a chemical makes up 1% or less, label it as trace. So the amount of acetone was really the majority. So I would say acetone is about 100%. And Loctite was just in minor amounts on the boards. So I'm just going to call that trace. Now you can have much more complicated ratios, and depending on what it is that you are trying to dispose of, this might get shorter or longer. So I'm done with calculating percentages. Next, I need to format the entry. Use the format. So here we have an example, but I will format it for you to show you that this works out. So I have 57 at 100% and 87 at trace. So I will type that as 57, 100%, 87, or 87 as trace. And that's it for this question on the hazardous waste disposal. Now, here we are being questioned about the state. Sometimes the multiple components are in different states. So what you will do is you will go for the majority state. So with liquid acetone, my majority state would be liquid. Now, given liquid, I have a few choices of units. Now, let's assume I had a 6 FL ounce paint container and I filled it up halfway. So I should have roughly 3 fluidic ounces of acetone Loctite mixture. So I'm going to go for fluidic ounces. The size of the container, as discussed, my initial container was 6. So I'm just going to type in 6. Amount in container. Again, these are in units stated above. I said only half the container was full, so let's say 3. Where is the container? Now in this case, I was pretending to be Baha and I did my work in assembly. So I will say on Baha's desk in assembly. And in addition to that, I will upload an image of where the container is located. Now, for the sake of example, I'm just going to take a random file from my downloads. I'm just going to repeat, you're not required or you should not be putting the STS. You need to put the image of where your container is located. But just for this example, we are uploading the STS. Now we're going to hit submit. And with that, we have filed our hazardous waste disposal. And at some point, someone should come, collect, and process that waste. That's it for this video. See you guys on the next one.